Hi, everybody. It's Bill with Scott and Bob, and we're here today to do a little something different. Instead of talking about an artist or an album, we're going to talk about a platform, an audio distribution platform called Bandcamp, which has been around for a number of years. It was actually established in 2007, but it's really taken up a big space in the world of music, kind of in that whole area of disintermediation, where in the old days you'd have the music labels handling, the signing and promoting and distribution of artists' work. And with the advent of the internet, the capabilities have been sort of broadened into all manner of different ways that didn't exist 20 or 30 years ago. And Bandcamp is really one of the hallmark methods that the bands and individual musicians can use to, at a very low cost, kind of get their product out into the world. And, they can use other alternative methods of promotion. And, instead of relying on labels necessarily, they can use social media and other kinds of, fan-oriented promotional tools to make people aware of what's going on. So anyway, Bandcamp is something that I became aware of probably about 10 years ago. And over the course of that time, I've investigated a whole number of artists and genres. And what's particularly useful about Bandcamp from my perspective is that I can filter based on the types of things that I'm interested in. And it provides kind of a very nice telescopic way into those different genres or geographies. And then you can use that as a way to sample the different music that you might be presented with. And then you can subscribe to Bandcamp's different newsletters, which are actually quite useful in terms of providing updated information about what's happening and where. And it is really quite eclectic. And I guess the main point, and it's something that's quite timely, is that since March of 2020, the pandemic obviously had caused a lot of disruption in the lives of bands and musicians who relied on touring in particular to get their music heard by people and to actually be in a position to raise their profiles and to sell their records and CDs. Bandcamp established a regular ongoing thing that has continued into this year, and the next one of these days will be November 4th, where they call it Bandcamp Friday, and the platform suspends all of the revenue charges that it normally uses to generate its own profits, and instead all of the revenue will go directly to the artist. So if you're intrigued in purchasing something, it's probably a great idea to wait if you're especially doing kind of a large number of purchases, to go and do that on November 4th. And there's also one in December as well. The one thing I would mention is that you really don't even have to wait. I mean, that's a great thing, because the revenue goes exclusively to the artists. But the whole method behind this is one that really does favor the musicians and the bands in terms of the amount of revenue that's extracted from them by Bandcamp. So it's really a way that as an individual artist, you can probably at least not go broke trying to get your music heard by an audience that potentially could grow just through this method. And it's been successful enough that labels themselves have started to use this, especially, kind of the smaller or mid-sized independent labels. And from my perspective, I think it's a win-win all around. And I guess the last point I would make specifically about Bandcamp is that because of its success and the fact that it is, kind of a trusted resource, and it really does kind of exemplify the indie sort of methodology. Notwithstanding the fact that it was acquired by Epic Games, which is a big gaming platform. I think they're best known for Fortnite. They've been left alone to continue to, focus on the things that they've done all along. And I think, as far as I can tell, there has not been any degradation in terms of the approach and the kind of support that the bands and artists can get via Bandcamp. And a lot of the stuff, instead of, certainly streaming, you can purchase at a price that the artists have set, albums or individual tracks. Sometimes, especially if they're interested in getting the music heard, there's no cost at all. But the album prices are similar to what you would expect from a digital service if you were buying it through iTunes or Amazon from a streaming perspective, if you were purchasing it. But you can also order physical product. And actually half of the revenue that Bandcamp generates these days is from physical products. So albums, vinyl and CDs, and associated merchandise, T-shirts, and all kinds of other things. Bands can put those up on the platform, and people can buy them. And Bandcamp right now is not doing the distribution. I mean, they're probably going to be walking into that space and supporting bands that way. But they're usually being done at either the independent label level or at the artist's level themselves. So anyway, that's kind of what Bandcamp's all about. Maybe Bob, if you want to talk a little bit about your experience with it, and then we can maybe talk about individual bands and what we've discovered by using the tool.
Sure. Thanks, Bill. What I appreciate about Bandcamp is in one place you have just an incredible selection of music from virtually any genre you can imagine. And you can, when you register with Bandcamp, you can indicate what genres you're interested in. And then I know I get emails from Bandcamp from time to time saying, hey, you indicated you like folk. Here are some releases that you might be interested in. And you can actually listen to the music and make a decision whether this is something that you'd like to have a permanent copy of. And, you can buy it digitally, and some of the artists will actually offer CDs or vinyl albums, that you can purchase. So I love the fact that I can actually listen to this in advance. And I also like and appreciate that it's dealing more or less directly with the artist. And, artists are having a hard time finding audiences these days because of all of the changes in technology and stuff. But at the same time, on the flip side of that technology has given artists a new freedom. And I know I have an old high school buddy of mine, who's a musician, and he has a studio at his house, and his band records their own stuff there. And with the technology we have now, they can make their own music. And once you have it mixed and on there, you can easily burn your own CDs. You can use social media to find an audience. So in some ways, artists have been freed from the shackles of a record company. And I know that when this technology first started coming about, I read an interview with, I can't remember which artist it was, but they were talking about, I have a choice between selling CDs at my shows for $5 each and keeping all of the money, or having a recording contract and selling a CD for $15 and getting $1 out of it. So they may not sell as many copies this way as they would say with a recording contract, but most of the money is going directly to them. And I remember back in the old days of was it MySpace?
MySpace, yeah.
Yeah, and MySpace had a big music selection, and when I was going through that, I was surprised to see how many well-known artists, are on there as independent musicians now without a recording contract. So that's what I really appreciate about Bandcamp. And in the comfort and safety of my own home, I can go to their webpage and just spend hours, scrolling through here, looking at musicians and listening to their music. And in some ways, it's almost overwhelming because it's like there's too much here. But yeah, it's an excellent resource, if you're wanting to check out what's going on with music today.
One of the things that you mentioned, Bob, is certainly true in my case in terms of discovery, because of the ability to filter stuff. One of the bands that I found last year, called Wet Leg, is probably one of my favorite artists of 2021, 22. And I probably wouldn't have found them quite so soon if I hadn't been following, the newsletter that Bandcamp provides. So this is, it's essentially two women from the UK, from one of the islands off the coast, who kind of, sort of were messing around just as amateur musicians. And they had a very, very, I would say it's fantastic first single called Chaise Long. And I clicked on it, and it took me about 20 seconds before I was enamored with the whole notion of this song. And so after following, listening to the music, then I went to YouTube and I saw that they put together a video. And then ever since then, I had set my Bandcamp filter so that I would be alerted anytime Wet Leg was doing something. So they put out another couple of singles that were great. And then they put out an album this year, which was very well received. And they had a successful tour. They were at Glastonbury in the UK with the big festival. And you can see some great performances on YouTube of them, but particularly this song that really kicked it all off for them and also for me. And this was, a Bandcamp thing. That's how I found them, and as an early adopter. So I thought that was really fantastic. How about you, Bob? What have you discovered?
Well, one of my selections that I wanted to present today came to me from a Bandcamp email. And it's a group called Hiss Golden Messenger, and it was in one of their recommendations. And I listened to it because it's a live album, and it says it's called Mystic Watt, live in Kansas City and St. Louis. So I saw live in Kansas City, and I said, "Oh, I got to check this out," And it was recorded at the Record Bar here in Kansas City. And so I started listening to it, and I was just captivated by this band. So it led me to go to their webpage and do some research. And the band leader, very interesting individual, very intelligent, writes some very insightful songs. So I'm now in the process of going back through their discography, and they've put out a ton of albums. And this is something that they're out of North Carolina. And had it not been for Bandcamp, I never would have even known about this group. And so that's how I got turned on to that. And I don't spend as much time in Bandcamp as I probably should have, because of other things going on in my life or whatever. But so this one just dropped into my lap from one of their emails.
I'm also, very much a fan of the kind of the labels that I was talking about before. The record labels that specialize in very distinctive types of music. One of them is it's called Rum Bar Records, which is based in Boston, and it's one of those things where if Rum Bar is the label, you can almost guarantee, based on the kind of interests I have of kind of garage punk, psychedelic, mishmashed stuff, that it's a guarantee of quality that, it probably merits a listen. So one of the things that I found on Bandcamp through Rum Bar Records was this outfit called the Shanghai Lows, which is kind of a collection of Boston musicians who, put together, a very nice power pop punk LP in 2020, I think. And, it was, again, something that I would normally, no matter how much I'd be searching around trying to find something, this is something that's completely on, in my wheelhouse. And I probably wouldn't have found it without Bandcamp's help. So
I like this one. I previewed this before. I want to play a little clip of this one. I really like this one.
Right.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah, so that's a great song. The investment of $1 if you want it. And
Or
so,
more.
yeah, or more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so, oftentimes, as I said, there'll be no charge, so you can actually download it for free. I feel bad doing that too many times because, there is cost that the band and and the musicians are incurring. So I tend to always at least give them $1, even if they say nothing, no cost, because if you don't add at least $1, you don't really get it in your own collection. You still get it on your, in your computer download, but you won't have it on your Bandcamp collection. And part of what I'd like to do is show off my Bandcamp collection. It's, I have some followers, people follow. I follow others as well because of, the similarity in our taste. So it's a way that you can kind of get tipped off to things that are, intriguing. So a great way to find stuff that you wouldn't otherwise when it comes to labels or genres, as I said, and this is a great example.
I want to purchase that. I was going to go through the process there, but I realized I don't want to do that on screen and show my credit card information or anything. So I'll do. I'll do that. I showed you the process there, but yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that after we stop recording. I got on the Bandcamp about back in the summer of 2015. This is where I first discovered it. My sister and brother-in-law up in Barnhart, Missouri, in Jefferson County, Missouri, just south of St. Louis, spent a summer. They have a big property up there, so they decided that summer that they were going to do a series of Battle of the Bands contests, right? And they recruited me to do a website for them, and I kind of turned it into a blog. And I spent that summer doing a blog, and the blog was basically, the bands that were playing there, but they were all local bands. And so I discovered Bandcamp because I found that a lot of these people I were talking to and getting to know these people, I could find a lot of their stuff on Bandcamp. That's how I got onto it. And here's my favorites page here. You can see that, following. Let's go to following. You can see that most of mine there are in that St. Louis area, and they're all, a lot of those are bands that I was interviewing and working with and talking with and things like that. One of them was this guy named Bo Diamond, who and I believe he was a 21-year-old kid at the time, and I just looked in on this, and he's still putting stuff up on Bandcamp. He's still plugging away at the stuff. But yeah, there were several bands like that that I found, and it's a great resource for, like, if you really want to just learn about what's going on around you, in your local scene, in your hometown. you'll find, most everybody that I looked for, back at that time, a lot of these bands aren't together anymore. These are kids, doing about 7 years ago. A lot of them gave up, went and got real jobs or whatever. But a few of them are still around. But my point is that pretty much everybody that I tried to find, I could find something or other on Bandcamp. If it was maybe just 1 or 2 tracks. Some of them put albums up there. Let me just randomly go to one of these. This particular one just has one album that he put up there about 7 years ago and stopped doing it. But some of them are still around, released 2011. That's how I got onto it, and it was a great resource. It was a great resource to listen to some of these local bands that I was learning about and getting to know back in the day.
I see, Scott, that you're following Amanda Palmer. She's kind of like one of the early, flag bearers for Bandcamp.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to talk about something that she put up there. Let me get to it. Yeah, what she did, she first became noticed back, I don't remember what it was, but about the middle aughts, maybe late aughts, I don't remember. But with a duo that she put together called the Dresden Dolls, her and the drummer named Brian Viglione. And they did a couple of albums, and then they met on Halloween, and they did their first, I think they got together, they met on Halloween and just kind of jammed and formed the band. And they did a couple of albums and a couple of tours, and then they stopped. They broke up now. They both kind of went their different ways. I think Brian Viglione went to play with the not the Violent Femmes, the what's the acoustic punk group? We did a video on them earlier. I'll think of it later. It's on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, he went on to do some drumming work with other bands, and Amanda Palmer went on to do a solo career, and she didn't like working with record labels, so she pulled her. She went and bought out all of her material from the record label that she was working with, and she just took control of it, and she just started using Bandcamp and Patreon and more, sort of like social media and crowdfunding sources to sell her music, and she's been pretty successful doing that with work, without record labels, and. About let me get my bearings here. About back in 2018, there was, if you all remember, there was the shooting at Parkland High School, at Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. It was just about 6 miles up the road from me, and so that I mean that hit really close to home for me, and I started getting involved with that. And one of the parents who lost their kids there is a guy by the name of Manuel Oliver. His son Joaquin was one of the 17 kids that got gunned down in that high school shooting, and he's an artist. He's a local artist, and he does he does murals and he would do graffiti art and things like that. There's a pretty well-known artist around here, and he pretty much turned his attention to. He started an organization called ChangeTheRef.org, and there's a website, and it's just basically devoted to trying to end gun violence, doing things on that line. And he, on Twitter, he got a hold of Amanda Palmer, or Amanda Palmer got a hold of him or something. I'm not sure which one instigated it. I can't find this here or anything. Let me just do a search for it. But she put out a track. called Everybody Knows Someone. Everybody Knows Somebody. She put out a track. She recorded a track and put it on Bandcamp the day that she recorded it. She just sat down and wrote a song and got her ukulele and played the song and recorded it. Everybody knows somebody. The thing that everybody knows somebody who got shot. She's just talking about the plague of gun violence in the country, and she put this track on there, and every penny that she made off of it, she donated it to changetheref.org, as you see there. And that's an illustration that Manuel Oliver did for the cover art for it. But she's really figured out a way how to use this stuff. I mean, she's pretty successful. I mean, she's not a big mainstream artist or anything like that, but she's been pretty successful since in her career since the Dresden Doll started. She does a lot of tours. She sells out a lot of worldwide tours and everything. In fact, she got stranded in New Zealand during the pandemic and ended up with her and her kid living there for about a year or so before they could finally get out of there. She's the wife of Neil Gaiman, the graphic artist, Neil Gaiman. I'm not sure how to say it. Who wrote The Watchmen and a few other things. And it was big news. I remember in the music circle when he was stranded there. Whether they were on tour together, and he had to leave and left her and her kid there, and it became big news there. And it turned out to be nothing. It was just an innocent thing. He had to leave there. But yeah, she's really good at this stuff. I mean, she's written books on how to make a living as an artist just through crowdsourcing and asking for donations. And she's done several TED Talks, and she's pretty much the expert on that right now.
You mentioned, people who may not be essentially mainstream artists, but are very well known within their particular area of expertise. And one of the guys that I discovered is Chris Forsyth, and he's on Bandcamp. He's an extraordinary guitarist, and he plays, the kind of stuff that I find very exciting. It's very noisy. It's minimal lyrics. There are some lyrics, but it's mostly instrumental stuff. He works with like-minded people, and interestingly enough, on this album, Scott, you'll be interested in this. Our pals Steve Wynn and Linda Pittman are also involved in this particular.
Okay, yeah.
So anyway, this is again something I didn't have any exposure to absent Bandcamp, but I started to. I don't even know exactly how I ended up here, but it was probably a sample that was on the front page or on a genre page, because I gave a couple of these albums a listen, and to be honest, I probably have almost all of Forsyth's work, and it was exclusively because of Bandcamp. And not only that, but I have a T-shirt that I bought via Bandcamp from Chris, which I think he actually mailed himself, and I will be
oh yeah, there's his merch. There's his T-shirt right there.
It's the tie-dyed one. Yo, you got the new Forsyth live album. So I will be seeing him live in New Haven at the end of this month in October. So I'm very excited, but it was exclusively through Bandcamp that I discovered him. And that's how it goes. Bob, you have another discovery or artist you want to talk about?
Yeah, I've got one, the newest album from Alter Bridge, Pawns and Kings. And somehow Alter Bridge flew under my radar.
Oh, they're from my neck of the woods.
Yes, they are.
Orlando.
Alter Bridge rose from the ashes of Creed, and they've had some pretty decent mainstream success. I was never really a big fan of Creed, so that might be one of the reasons that I never paid attention to this band. But they were there on Bandcamp. So I gave them a listen. And, you know, of my choices today, this is Tuesday, so I'm going to call this Throwback Tuesday, because at least two of my choices really are kind of a throwback to earlier eras. And Scott, you want to click on This Is War and give that a little listen here for a few seconds? Yeah, so when I listened to that song, I was immediately taken back to 70s arena rock, and I'm thinking Deep Purple, the Richie Blackmore Rainbow, Uriah Heep, that kind of thing. So it just took me back to that era with, you know, the soaring vocals and the guitar riffs and stuff, and not what I remember Creed doing, unless I'm misremembering Creed. So I was immediately kind of captivated by what they were doing. And This Is War, the lead off cut there, you know, kind of gets into personal, you know, personal struggles and stuff. And then I really liked Silver Tongue, because it reminds me of a certain former politician, you know, who's still in the news and who's kind of cast a spell over his followers. Anyway, I was just kind of intrigued by them. And again, like I say, it takes me back to that, you know, 70s rock, arena rock type vibe. And I was really kind of impressed with the music and the songs. And so anyway, that was one of my throwback picks for today.
I got a throwback pick for you.
Okay.
There's a band that is from Northern Florida called the Dolly Rots, who had some success a few years ago as a little, you know, sort of indie alternative band. They've recorded several albums. A few albums went national, and I think they still have a national following. I know that. Well, it's a duo. It's a man and wife duo, and you know, then they enhance their sound with other musicians that come in. But the core band is just this man and wife duo, and she now is getting a lot of exposure as she's one of the DJs on Little Steven's Underground Garage on Sirius XM. She goes by the name of Kelly Dolly Rot. That's not her real last name, but that's what she uses as a DJ. But all of these, most all their albums, not all of them, but most of them are available, you know, on major label releases and on the streaming services and things. But there's one album here. Well, I got on their mailing list, and a couple of years ago, I got an email that they were releasing an album on Bandcamp only, and it was called Girl Groups and Punk Beats, the Covers. And essentially what it is they're covers that cover songs that they've recorded over the years. You know, they sprinkle across a couple of their earlier albums. You know, they'd be B-sides and things like that. Well, they took all these cover songs they recorded and put them on one album and just sold it on Bandcamp. And here's my favorite one. It just I love this one. it's really cool. They've got, it's a cover album. I mean, a gazillion people have done cover albums, but I just really like this one. Dancing with Myself, a Billy Idol tune. They do Dream Lover, the old 50s song, Happy Together by the Turtles. Just some really, really, really cool stuff. Yep, and available only on Bandcamp.
Nice. Let's see. I mean, I think, have we covered everything? This is, the exciting thing about it is this kind of discovery is something available to everybody, and you can find something interesting, I guarantee, almost every day. So it's really all about the amount of time and energy you've got. But it does, Bandcamp itself as a platform does provide a good way to set some filters so that you get exposed to the sorts of things that you want, and it will narrow down the amount of time you have to spend kind of poking around.
There's a lot of stuff on here, and it can be intimidating. It can be intimidating because there's so much stuff, and there's no, but you just it's just you have to learn to really use the filters, but there's a lot of pretty good filters on here. Like I showed earlier there's even a filter where you could just look for stuff that came out of St. Louis. You could just look for stuff that came out of Connecticut or Florida or whatever, and all the different genres. And it's really intimidating, but if you kind of have an idea of what it is that you're looking for, you think YouTube is a rabbit hole? YouTube's got nothing on Bandcamp as far as rabbit holes are concerned.
Amen. The last time I was on here, I can't remember how much time I spent here, and it was just, oh, that looks interesting. Click, listen. Oh, that one, click, listen. So yeah, you can look up suddenly and realize that hours have gone by.
You want to go out with a little Chris Forsyth?
Yeah, let's do that. So anything off the new album, which is Evolution, I think it's called. Yeah, Evolution, Here We Come. Let's go with the first one.
Good?
Sure.
Some hush puppy shoes. Let's play it one time.